I got to say, Knew Amsterdam Radio is brought to you part by Anchor FM. Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? You see, when I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? And most importantly, I don't want to deal with cables and wires and all those things. You see, the answer to every single one of these questions is pretty simple. Anchor. Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And you can use your phone, which is pretty awesome. Now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. So if you ever wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Welcome back to Knew Amsterdam Radio. Once again, it's your boy, Flobo Boyce, and I am thanking you, like I thank you every single week for tuning in. I understand you have very finite time in your down period, or maybe your commute period. I'm so glad that you're taking time out to listen to Amsterdam Radio. This episode and all the other episodes are available wherever you stream your podcast: Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, YouTube, and all that stuff. And at the time you're hearing this, it should be either late Wednesday or Thursday, June 25th. It's a miniature holiday, a global holiday where I'm from. Not really, it's my birthday. And I could not think of a better guest to be my birthday show guest. Miss Jackie Rae is so layered of what she does. Now, the reason why I chose her for this week is that we have different creatives working on different projects out there. Whether you're at the idea stage, whether you're at the working on a stage, whether you're at the completion of your first project stage, you can probably detail your journey in a way that says, hey, look, it's a challenge, but I'm on my way. Miss Jackie Rae has done that many times over in many different disciplines. I really wanted to have an example of someone who's operating the umbrella, someone that has different properties or different things working at once. Because sometimes if we are idea based, we tend to have a bunch of good ideas and we want to see all of them come to fruition. So I had a very spirited talk with Miss Jackie Rae. Make sure after the interview you follow her all over social media. I got to have her back because she's just a wealth of knowledge, and insight, and perspective. And she's been true to the why from day one. So without any further ado, here's Miss Jackie Rae. So please welcome Miss Jackie Rae. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I feel so honored.
Yeah, I'm glad you said yes. You're like my celebrity get. I was so enamored about what you're doing out there in the digital space and all of that.
Thank you.
So how would you describe what it is that you do? Because you do a lot, like a lot.
I do a lot. So I think that's one of the things that I had to really sit down this year and kind of do because I do so much. So I am a journalist, obviously. So I am actually a sports journalist by trade. But I'm also very passionate about my Black lives and things of that nature. So I am
like lives plural? Like you have lives?
Black lives. Everyone, I'm rooting for everyone Black, like literally, like that's my thing. So,
I understand.
So now I'm more of I consider myself a sports, entertainment, social justice journalist. So it's not really a specific title, but that's what I consider myself.
Yeah, that's true. I like the blend of all different aspects of the culture, if I can use that parlance. It's funny because we both met at AfterBuzz, which is a place. A lot of our guests on the show are hosts in AfterBuzz, but we have like this mixture of different backgrounds. Like I came from comedy, and it's cool to see that you are a bona fide journalist. And I know we had a conversation about how you got started, and you said on your journalism journey, you actually worked the craft on your own island. It was?
I did. I did indeed. I I went to, it's not my own island.
Nope, there's your name's on it, straight up.
Right. So I had gotten to the point where I was just kind of freelancing all the time, and I said to myself, I was like, all right, I'm just going to apply for a bunch of jobs. The first one that pays me anywhere close, because that's the thing, when you are applying for a lot of these multimedia journalists or these MMJ positions, they barely pay. So I was like, the first one that wants to pay me a decent salary, I'm out. Which was a big deal for me because I love LA with all the problems that it has. I love LA, so it was a big deal for me to say, I'm just going to be out. So I literally just applied to like 10 jobs. I'll never forget because it was a Tuesday afternoon. I'm at work, and I applied to 10 jobs, went home, got a call. Somebody was like, hey, can you do this red carpet for me? And I was like, sure. So I was getting dressed for that, and then I get a call. It's late for us, you know what I mean? So I was like, who is calling me right now? And it was a guy named Bob, who was the news director from KSPN in Saipan. He just wanted to chit-chat. And so we chatted it up a bit. And then I didn't realize when I applied for the job that it was in Saipan because the initials are MP.
Yeah.
So for Mariana's Pacific Islands, I thought it was a typo because, believe it or not, you see that a lot on Indeed. People make typos. So I just assumed it was like Minnesota. I don't know. I thought it was somewhere. So he was like, yeah, do you know anything about the Marianas? And are you okay being on an island? And I'm like, an island? Where are you calling me from?
Yeah.
So, we chatted it up a bit. The next day, the owner of the station called me. I had a few reservations, if I'm going to be honest.
Just a few reservations? That's crazy.
Because I've never been like that. Like anyone who knows me, if an opportunity, I don't have any kids, I'm not married, so I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. Like I don't have reservations like that. Like if it's time to move, it's time to move. My biggest reservations was my spidey senses went off with him personally, specifically. Right. The owner of the station, something was just like, I don't know. Right. But I was like, it's an island. At the time, all signs looked, because, at this point, 45 hadn't won the election. Actually, I take that back. He hadn't won the election yet. I can't remember. It was a blurry time. But either way, I knew he was going to be in office, and I was like, I don't want to be here with him and his people. I want to get off this rock. So I went to a different rock. Yeah. And it was cool. Again, like I said, I'm not one that shies away from change. So while I was on the island, the spidey senses that went off regarding the owner, they came to pass, and my spidey senses were right. So I quit. So here I am on an island. There's no infrastructure there. So if you're not in tourism or working for the news station, there's not a lot of jobs. Correct. But I wasn't quite ready to come back to the States yet. So I quit. Part of my beat being out there was to work for the police department. I covered the police department. So I was on the police beat, the sports beat, which is not a lot of sports beat, and unfortunately the drowning beat, because a lot of people came out to the island and would get caught in the undertow and they would drown. So these were typically the stories that I covered, which meant that I worked with the police and fire department a lot. So the chief of police found out that I was quitting, and so before I quit, he called me into the office, and so I quit on, I think it was a Wednesday, and started working as the public relations officer for the Saipan police on a Friday. So,
wow.
It was, and so they had no idea what that meant. You know what I mean? So I literally built a studio. They gave me a little office. I built a studio in that office, and instead of, because one of the things that I know they complained about a lot when I was working for KSPN is that we weren't delivering the information in a way that they felt that they actually gave it to us. So I built a studio in the police department, and I basically created our own news channel, which ended up making the governor of the island wanted me to do news pieces for him. So I ultimately ended up back in news, just from more of a private sector, I guess you would say, which was crazy.
So let's take a step back and unpack this for our listeners that are struggling with how they're doing. So this is an opportunity that comes out, and we do the whole him and haw, should I or shouldn't I? You went for it. right? And then
Sure.
you landed, or I don't know how you swam. I mean, you ziplined. I mean, you rappelled, and decided the plan wasn't what you want to do, but you still found a way to make Saipan, the actual Rock of Saipan, work for you. I mean, that is just amazing. I mean, I guess there's certain kind of people that would just sit there and go, well, that's not the job I got. What do I do? I guess I'm going back home. But then you found a way to not even transfer. You glowed up. Like you started your own department, you know?
Yep. Got to pay more money too.
Yeah. So what was the reason I got you to come back? Like what made you go, you know what? The United States is where it's at. I'm ready to go.
Well, so there's not a lot of sports. So it's a twofold thing. There's not actually three. There's not a lot of sports in Saipan, so it's difficult to be a sports reporter on an island where there's no sports really. And so, for example, if I'm covering football or basketball, then I literally have to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning because that's the time difference because they're a day ahead. So it's troublesome in that aspect. Number two, my mom is here. She's a little older, so I felt like, I was just too far away from her. And then there's not a lot of black people on the island. So the island is about 50,000 people. There was probably about 25 black people who actually lived on the island, and most of them weren't in my age demographic. They were older. So seeing the struggles that black people were going through in the States and just knowing that if I came back, I could probably build a platform that could actually help and impact, our movement. I just felt I was too far away. And so I didn't want to not be in the fight. So I came back to fight, to be honest.
Well, let's jump ahead then. I mean, this is 2020. This is the second or third week of June. And, Black Lives Matter is a thing that I felt should have been understood. But now we're in a place where we have to actually explicitly say it. And I guess from my perspective, it's kind of interesting, empowering, and kind of cynical. You're seeing so many companies at the same time saying we're about the movement. I really want to see your perspective because I know Jackie Rae don't pull no punches when it comes to how she feels. So I want to see your perspective. What's going on right now with that?
So I've been telling everybody, tread lightly because it's not a believable situation to me. It doesn't make sense. So, and, I've been a journalist for a while, so I know how these trends go. I know right now, unfortunately, Black Lives Matter is what's trending. So you can't trust a company, say like Starbucks, who is perfectly fine to let their LGBT community wear shirts, talking about that. And then the only reason they decide to create Black Lives Matter shirts is because they explicitly said, no, you can't wear that because we think that that's a problem. And then they got backlash, and now they're doing it. Same with the NFL. It got backlash, and now they're doing it. So all of these companies are really making moves now because it's the socially acceptable thing to do. But like I tell people all the time, this is not an awakening. This is not all of a sudden these predominantly white companies that have all these predominantly white CEOs and owners and executives, all of a sudden them saying, hey, you know what, maybe we should give a damn now. That's not what's happening. It's literally the perfect storm. We're in a pandemic. People are at home. Because if you didn't get it at Eric Garner, if you didn't get it at Tamir Rice, George Floyd is not what made you get it. What made you get it is we are at home now, and you really have nothing else to do but to watch. And now people's anger is bubbling over for different things because I went to a couple of different marches, and it was like, a lot of it was like, F Donald Trump. While I love that sentiment, he is not the biggest problem the black community has. He might be the icing on the cake, but this cake has been baking for quite some time. And so it's more people are tired of who's in office. They're tired of being in their homes more so than they are finally on the train of Black Lives Matter. This train has been moving for a long time. And so the fact that people are jumping on now, I personally am not buying it.
Yeah. Do you approach your work as a journalist and broadcaster that likes to amplify black voices, or is it considered a detriment if someone says you are a black broadcaster?
Oh, I'm very black. I'm a very black broadcaster. And the thing is like, yes, to be fair, especially to the younger journalists out there that are listening, you will literally be swimming upstream if that's the position that you take. because anything that's, kind of amplifying the plights of black people makes those who are not black uncomfortable, which means if you're shining a light on that, you're going to make people uncomfortable, which is going to make your progression in this business a lot harder. I'm not at the point in my life where I think I need someone to employ me in order to be successful. I will find my own path. So I'm a little bit more fearless in the things that I say and the things that I do. But at the same time, if you do want to be a part of if you want to work for ESPN or if you're trying to get on with CNN, I would tell you to tread lightly. Be black, but not as black as me.
I mean, I'm on your Instagram page, Jackie Rae Fanatic, the Fanatic. You do so much things for so many different brands. Mm-hmm. Walk me through this. There is the Fanatic, the Fumble, excuse me. All right.
Yep.
Opposite opinion. Am I?
So there's the Fumble. There's the Opposite Reaction.
Opposite Reaction, I'm sorry.
There's At the Half, which is part of the Jackie Rae the Fanatic umbrella. So Jackie Rae the Fanatic has evolved because Jackie Rae the Fanatic started as a kind of a YouTube piece specifically to teach women about football.
Okay.
So that's how that started. And that kind of evolved into me having my own show.
I have to jump in there, but like when you say about football, like the mechanics or like the business of it or just everything?
Everything.
Okay.
And how it came about was literally because I would go, I am a diehard football fan. I would end up at a sports bar at like 10 in the morning for the first game, no matter who it was, and I am there till the last game goes off at night, and I'm watching every single game. So, but in that, I was getting into a lot of confrontations because, number one, there are certain fans that I hate, and I'm just going to antagonize because that's who I am. Eagles fans, Raider fans, I just can't stand them, so I'm definitely going to antagonize them, especially when they're losing. So, but those, when I would antagonize those people, it would just be what it is. It would be sports trash talk,
Wait, so you got a lot of confrontations that you started?
Yeah. I would definitely start those. I'm going to take ownership of those, but none of those ever got to the point where I thought they were going to get physical. The confrontations that potentially and one actually did get physical was because when I would go to the bar by myself, which was not a lot. Most of the time I had my crew that I was meeting at various bars, but if they just weren't, because that gets expensive going every Sunday,
True.
So if it was that Sunday they were like, I can't do it, Jay. I would go by myself. And, and sitting there and yelling, and I am oblivious. When I watch sports, anybody could be in the Jay-Z, Beyonce, everybody could be in the room. I would not see them because I am like focused on what I am watching.
Jay's like, well, why shouldn't you know me, babe? Like, why?
Right. Like Beyonce can be like, Jackie, does he have a ring on it? I'm like, well, girl, you see me watching this game? You know what I mean? Like I am just focused. So in that, I am still my authentic self. I'm yelling and cussing at the TV and coaching from the bar, That attracts people of like minds. There's a lot of people in the world who are like me, who are just crazy sports fans. Unfortunately, a lot of times that ended up being guys who were there with their girlfriends who knew nothing about the game. And so then all of a sudden I'm getting too much FaceTime. And then all of a sudden she thinks that I'm trying to take her man, who I have yet to even look in the face. I don't even know what dude looks like.
Is your man these nachos? I don't even know.
Right. Like, I don't even know. And to me, I'm a Scorpio too. I'm not a confrontational person, but I'm not non-confrontational. If you bring it, I'm ready for it. And so it just became a thing. And so one day, the one that almost it did get kind of physical, but it was over quickly.
Wait, that sounds so ominous. What do you mean it got physical, but it was over quickly?
It was over quickly.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, anyway. So I'm the baby of 6. Let me just leave it at that.
Okay.
So, when I left, I felt so bad because I'm so like pro-woman, pro-black, and it wasn't a black woman, but I'm like, girls still out here fighting? Did we still doing that? I thought that was over,
Yeah.
So I'm in the car. I feel super bad about the situation, and then it dawns on me, if she'd have known football, she could have jumped in on the conversation. They could have been talking, and it wouldn't have been about me.
Stop, Jackie. That's hilarious. You're like, if she knew football, I wouldn't have to beat her ass.
Right. So I created a show called Ladies Corner. Ladies Corner was all about breaking it down step by step. And I thought it was going to be a super cheesy show that no one was going to watch. And I'm telling you, every week I got women emailing me or direct messaging me and saying, oh my God, can you tell me what this means on your next show? And so for like a year, it was a thing. I got bored with it because, you can only explain down so many times before you're like, okay, if y'all don't got it by now. So then I had to evolve out of it, even though the viewership was still there. I had to evolve out of it. And so then that's when we started doing more talk shows, interviews, things of that nature. And now it's just a production company. So I'm looking to produce other shows that empower Black people. So I want to do a finance show that kind of helps Black people know how to start saving for, say, a house and how to build generational wealth, because that's something that we lack in. Also, I want to give people options. I know college isn't not only something that's not necessarily attainable for some of us, but also something we just don't want to do, because it's like at this point you're paying somebody else for something that I have literally seen on Indeed must have master's degree, and then you look at the pay and it's like $18 an hour. Come on, I'm not about to go to school for all that. So I just want to give people different options, work with different nonprofit organizations so I can kind of saturate the Black community with ways that we can kind of build together.
Is there a show you consider the flagship under your umbrella, or just in general what you put the effort into, or is all shows equally? Is like your like Kids, where you can't hate every one or the other, or you're like, no, this is like priority one or something along those lines?
No. I mean, I think priority one is my voice. I don't have a show that I feel... I think that if I had to put them in order, it'd probably go At the Half. Well, the At the Half and The Opposite Reaction would probably be equal. And then The Fumble, even though The Fumble has the biggest platform. But no, for me, the flagship is my voice, and getting that out to as many people as possible, even if they disagree with me. It's a beautiful thing as long as people are listening and they're engaged. So yeah, I don't have a show that I am pushing harder than the other. I'm pushing everything as hard as I can.
No, for sure. I get that. I don't know if you had like a little recipe mix or what have you.
No,
With all of us, or most of us in the country, being locked away at some point in some length during this spring and summer 2020, a lot of people came out the woodwork with their content plans, myself included. Like this show, Knew Amsterdam Radio, if I'm really honest with you, the first 20 episodes, it was a secret podcast. It was like, no one cares about viewers. I'm just going to talk into my phone. I had the Anchor app. And I really took it seriously in quarantine. So I said, look, here's a structure. I'm doing it every week. But just, if you had any like advice for those people, those who have already made the decision to jump into making content, but like scheduling or finding their niche or finding a way to automate, like what would be the thing that you learned that you're willing to share?
So I highly recommend the University of YouTube. Like whatever you are thinking about doing, legit take an hour on a Friday or Saturday or on the weekend or whatever, and just watch people, and listen to their recommendations. And then after that, I know sometimes scheduling is hard, especially because you have to, work a regular job and things of that nature. So you really have to be diligent in carving out time. So if you're going to do one show a week and your show is coming out, and I'm preaching to the choir on this, because if you'll notice, my shows come out. I don't think people really notice because I have 3 of them. So you're always going to get one at some point, but people probably don't even notice that, At the Half came out on, like this week it's coming out on Friday and it's supposed to come out on Tuesday. So I think, I'm lucky enough that I have enough platforms that people don't notice. But at the same time, that's one thing that I'm trying to teach myself, because I notice when I say, okay, At the Half is coming out on Tuesday, special YouTube segment for At the Half comes out on Thursday. So that's my recipe for At the Half. There's the podcast that you get strictly if you go to Anchor. You'll see a segment of that podcast live on my YouTube channel, and then special content. So anything that hits my brain that I just kind of want to vent about, that's supposed to come out on Thursday. So what I've noticed is I have to set a schedule, because I'm just working too much, and if I don't have specific times. So on Sunday, I plan out what I think I'm going to talk about for my podcast, and then I carve out time on Monday to record and shoot my podcast, and then edit it to make sure that it's up on Tuesday. Monday night we do The Opposite Reaction. So Mondays are crazy, which I'm that's my recipe. I can't tell anybody what else to do, but my recipe is stack the top of the week. So then that way you can get as much content recorded at least. And so that way if you don't have time to get it out, you at least have the rest of the week to chop it up and make sure that every week you get content out. Because I found that when I just kind of say, okay, on this day I'm going to do this, then life happens. And until you're getting paid and don't have to work any other jobs but that one, then time does become an issue. So I would say make sure you carve out a block of time that you can consistently stick to and then just knock it out. And if you think you're going to have problems, then knock out more than one thing in that block of time, so then you have the rest of the week to chop it up and put it out as you need to.
Yeah, it's basically hold yourself accountable to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's advice for life, and I know everyone's mix is different. Like, what you're doing is different than someone who wants to do videos about, like, I don't know, knitting or what have you. But it's always good to pull that, the structure of that, if you will. Can I talk about the music side?
Yeah.
Because I will say this happened about maybe a year ago. You had posted something on Instagram, and you were like, yo, people don't even know I got the music part of me going right now. And I was like, all right, cool. I was driving from, I think it was AfterBuzz. I live on the west side. I live in Culver City. So that drive is like 35 minutes at night, about an hour and a half during traffic. Right. And I was like, yo, these albums are pretty dope. And I always tell you my favorite songs, and I always hit you up when it comes through on the cycle. Walk me through like the idea of being like, I'm a dabble in the musical arts.
I didn't dabble. I was full in. That's how I ended up in LA. So I moved out here with a band. We were like this funk rock band. We were kind of like Evanescence meets Parliament kind of band.
Okay.
So we moved out here. We went the ways that bands go. That didn't last very long, specifically because it was so expensive out here and none of us were prepared. So they all moved back to Denver. I just refused. I was like, I am not, because everyone told me I would fail, and I was like, not today. So I stayed. I ended up in another band called Triple Soul. We ended up, they introduced me to a gentleman named Sunichi, who I sung background for him. He was actually working with Warner Brothers at the time. And then I became like this background singer. Then I became a wedding singer. And then in the process of that, I recorded my first album. After the first album is when I found another producer. We recorded my second album. The second album had me meet this manager guy, kind of legit, kind of shady, but he had me open. So I opened for Charlie Wilson. I opened for Tyrese. So no, I didn't dabble. I was full on in it. And then,
as Jackie Rae as well?
Yeah. So Jackie Rae has always been my name. When I moved out here, I was Lady J. That was the name that I had in the band. And then when the band broke up, I was like, oh, I always hated that name. So then, I ended up in Triple Soul. Triple Soul was already in existence. They were holding auditions. I came in. They didn't like my name. And so this is kind of a funny random story. So I'm not a name brand person, just fun fact. Okay. You could throw every name brand item in front of me and a bunch of women are going to know what they are. I am going to have no clue. I'm just going to know that one's blue. Like, I'm kind of a guy in that way because I'm wife beater and shorts is like my go-to outfit.
Right.
So we had gotten a stylist who took us out one day, and she took us to this like knockoff store, which I didn't know it was a knockoff because, again, I don't know no brand name. So there's this shirt, and I was like, oh, wow, this shirt is really cool. And they were like, of course you would like that shirt. I do have expensive taste, even though I don't know what name brands are. And they were like,
That's awesome.
She's like, of course you would like that shirt. You're so expensive. And I'm like, I don't even know what is this? Dulce? Like, what is this? And she's like, what you call it? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. Is it Dulce? She's like, it's Dolce. And I was like, oh, like in Gabbana? Oh, I didn't know that. So she's like, yeah. So somehow that was so funny that my name became Dolce for like 3 years. And I was like, yo, I hate this name.
Right.
So when I got out of that band, I wasn't entirely sure, what to call myself because I had all these stage names for so long. But then I was like, I'm just going to use my real name, So Well, my first name and my middle name. So Jackie Rae is what it was.
And how many solo albums currently?
2.
Going back to it at any point?
Yes, I'm actually working on a 3rd album right now.
Yeah. I want to say that for someone who tried my first song this year, because I'm not like a singer, but rather, you know, I'm a comedian, but there's no comedy clubs. And so I made a comedy novelty song. But the process is similar. No, like, not to compare, but it's similar. It's a lot of work, man. No one told me how hard it was, how that is. I mean, what is the inspiration? What gets you going to go back? Because not to say that you cannot do it. It's just so many different sides of the brain, going from the broadcast side to the content scheduler side, back into the songwriting part of your body. Like, how do you like mitigate all of that?
So it's not as difficult. Like, I mean, yeah, from comedy, because I could never be funny. So hats off to you. So the writing aspect of songwriting is not. It's not. Of course, you get writer's block. One of the things I found difficult recording my second album is when I went into my second album, I was like, I am not going to write heartbreak songs anymore because that's all that I had ever written. But that's up until that point, all I had gone through. Right. So when I was trying to write just songs about life, they became very difficult for me because, you know, heartbreak, sometimes my friends used to always tell me that I would date horrible guys just so I could write songs, you know, because that's where I drew all my inspiration from. So that second album really trained me to, like, you can legit, and rappers are really good at this, especially when you hear them freestyle. They'll be like, okay, name something, and then they'll take a pencil, and all of a sudden they'll make that pencil into a whole song. Life really speaks to you, you know what I mean? So right now I'm writing songs just that are all about any and everything I feel. And so it's kind of it's definitely going to be a weird album when it comes out because some of it's going to be about social change. Some of it's going to be about how I have the best friend in the world. Some of it's going to be literally about how I manage stress because I reached a point in my life where my stress levels were so high that my doctor said that she was going to have to put me on medication. And I was like, I shall not. So I had to figure out.
You point a finger in the sky like, I will not. Yeah.
I will not do it. So I had to figure out a way to kind of navigate through that and, you know, a bunch of reading and things of that nature. So if you can, what I always tell people, if whatever you go through during your day, good, bad, or whatever, sit down and at the end of the day, just write it. Journaling is the best release for a lot of things. It's where your best songs are going to come from. It's where stress relievers are going to come from. And it's great to sometimes sit down and flip a couple of pages back and realize that you still standing. So if you learn how to channel your thoughts onto paper, you can write a song.
The insight that you have can speak volumes and it can apply to a lot of things. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to share as far as like advice or just like a thing you learned this year or just a dope axiom? You know?
Yeah, I mean, if I could give advice, I always try to, you know, and I don't know who's listening, but I don't think it even applies to age, but I always try to tell people, I think especially here in LA, we get caught up in, you know, the box. So people will tell you, oh, you're too whatever, you're too old, you're too black, your hair is too natural, you're too loud. Whatever that too is, instead of looking at it as a negative, that's probably going to be the thing that sets you apart. So figure out why that part is so valuable to you as a person and figure out how to market it. And don't ever let anybody tell you you're too anything in a negative context. Figure it out and make it work. That's my advice.
Dang. Where can the world find you online if they want to scroll through your social media and subscribe to your shows?
If you want to stalk me, I appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at J-Rae, the Fanatic. My YouTube page, I don't have enough. I had to restart my YouTube page, which is a whole nother story. But I had to restart it. So if you just look up Fanatic Productions, you will see me there and you can subscribe. Or just go to my Instagram page, and my YouTube page is on my Instagram as well.
Always a good time talking with people with a clear vision on a path to their goals. This is Knew Amsterdam Radio, Flobo Boyce here. And it's It's kind of early. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to celebrate my birthday. I don't know if I should go for a drink or eat copious amounts of food. I've already tore through some birthday cake. I mean, like a boss. Like, why would I not do that? Another trip around the sun, and hopefully this brings out more content, more episodes, and more adventures in this city that we've built for creatives called Knew Amsterdam. Once again, please follow the show if you can over at Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, YouTube. You can support the show in a bunch of ways. You can check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/Flobo Boyce. See, every time I sit down with someone and I have an interview, the complete and unabridged interview is available for Patreon subscribers. Get the full story over there on Patreon. And I have a t-shirt store, a little gimmick stand, a lemonade stand. Check it out at flobito.threadless.com. I'll be back here next time. Fantastic guests coming through the summer of creation in this new normal that we're living in. And if you have an idea for a show, please don't hesitate to hit me up. I'm on social media at Flobo Boyce on Twitter, at Flobito on Instagram, and of course, flobito.com. So until next time, as always, the city is yours.